So I was looking at another question here, and this one is from Miranda Ainsworth, who asks, "Why do you think Donald Trump is losing in the polls, and can he turn things around?" Yeah, that's the first reply would be yes. Let me just say something. For a lot of people, and I think more of our listeners on Spotify and our local listeners completely understand this. This is a very politically minded show, meaning I'm not yay Trump or boo Trump. And it pisses a lot of people off because I don't agree on one side or the other. This just comes from a lot of investigative journalism and years working with certain people, a lot of pundits, a lot of campaigns. So let's go over the Trump situation here. Trump in March was actually doing pretty well. Uh, Surprisingly well to a lot of people because the pandemic had just broke out. There were a ton of reasons to think that Trump would be going, in this kind of downturn. But what did Trump do? Trump talked about stimulating the economy, getting people, a form of a UBI at that point. He also was advocating for a form of healthcare, and it's still going on. That was one of the few things that was good that was approved in the CARES Act. Is if you got COVID, at the time he was pushing for the treatment to be free. Now all of that has fallen off as of I think July 1st, so none of that's in play anymore. But at that time, it looked like he was doing something. He was caring about the American people, and not just in these small groups of his base. He was talking to every person, and so he was doing well. But now we've seen his approval rating drop pretty significant, and he's losing a lot of the middle. And the reason why is because he is going on talking about he just I think yesterday he just signed some executive order to say you get like 10 years for defacing a statue. Who cares, dude? Like seriously, your base and like the people who are caught up in identity politics, which is about 15 to 20% of people on the right, 15 to 10 to 15% of people who are on the left. I would say 10 to 15% on both sides. That's all who give a damn about identity politics. A lot, but we cover them more than anything. We pay attention to them more than anything. But the average person really doesn't care, especially when it comes to voting, especially when it comes to who's going to run the country. And the very first thing they think about when they wake up is, we better have a General Lee statue up. No. The very first thing they think about when they wake up is, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to get food in the refrigerator? What am I going to do for my kids? How's their future looking? How's my future? All of those things. They don't really give a shit about these small secular ideologues. And these are the people that Donald Trump has been speaking to a lot lately. And that's his biggest problem. I don't know who is telling him to keep pushing at his base, but he's got his base. He's never going to lose his base. They're there for him. They are ride or die bitches, and they will not leave. I don't mean that in a derogatory term, by the way. On either way you look at that. No, they're ride or die. They're with him. They're down. He needs to entice that centrist right group. That group who's worried about the economy. Trump is not talking about the economy. All he's saying is we need to rebuild it, and we're going to work on the economy getting stronger. Okay, tell us how. You're not doing that, and that's the problem. He is not addressing these issues that are happening. I've said it before. If he really wanted to turn popularity in just a 180 degree right now, he should start advocating for the extension. I don't even know if they can do an extension. I think they have to write a new bill now, which he's not going to be able to get until late July. But to allow people to stay in their homes, whatever domicile that might be, in their homes, in their apartments, whatever. You rent, you pay mortgage, you can't be evicted. That's the first thing he's got to do. But then got to continue working on that problem and figuring out, okay, what are we going to do? Um, Bill in Pittsburgh is a steel worker. He couldn't go to work He's technically laid off. He hasn't been working for 2 months. His company is just shut down due to the pandemic. They're just kind of starting to get around. Bill's gonna be getting a paycheck, maybe, but I don't know. The pandemic's picking up again. Meanwhile, he has 3 months of back mortgage, back rent. What do you do about that guy? Do you just let him fall aside? When you spend your time writing legislation about statues and not concerning yourself with the average steel worker, that's where you lose that support. And I know it seems real easy to say, well, polls are wrong. No, you got to look around. You got to see that if your big concern is either Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, then you're not looking about what the average American is worried about. You got your blinders on. That's the way it is. And that's what Trump's doing right now. He's got his blinders on. I need to keep this is what's important to the American people is the statues. No, it's not. It's just not. We have far too many people who are about to get evicted. We have far too many people who can't who had their like 20% of our country got their wages cut. Another 15 to 20% have just completely lost their jobs. That's 40% of economic instability, and you're not speaking to it at all. You're not passing any legislation to fix that. Of course, you're going to be incredibly unpopular because as much as you might say, you know, all lives matter and the 5 years that the Confederacy stood was the most important in my livelihood, it's still not more important than you having a house. It's still not more important than you having rent, than you being able to buy groceries, than you being able to pay for electricity. That's more important. And that's just the way it is. It hurts to say that, I'm sure that is some really bitter medicine for Donald Trump to drink right now. And unfortunately, he has to carry the brunt of it. Joe Biden can not say shit, which is what he's done, and can still be perceived as a guy. Well, he might help us out. You can infer what somebody says when they don't speak, and that's what a lot of Americans are doing right now. I'm personally saying to a lot of people who don't know, Joe Biden's not going to do anything else. He's not some FDR, you know, um, big project kind of guy. He's going to let the banks handle most of it and rebuild in their fashion, which is the same as we've seen. Fuck over the little guy, rich get richer kind of thing. That's exactly what's going to happen under Biden. But the fact is he's not saying anything, and that's why he's winning. Trump is coming out and talking a lot, but not talking about those problems and not addressing them. And that is where people are saying, no, you know what? You called us the forgotten, but now you're forgetting us. You're forgetting the average American, the blue collar worker, who has lost their job to this pandemic. That, let's be honest, it was under the Trump administration. The government made people shut down, and now they're not taking care of them. And you can blame it on your governor, you can blame it on whoever. But the fact is, it all fell under Trump's jurisdiction. He is the president of this entire country, not just the red states. It's not just on the blue states, because now we're starting to see it affect the red states. This is a problem that he's got to address. He's got to talk about. And he's got to say, this is what I want to do for you. And if he did, I promise you, if he came out, maybe not, I haven't even given any legislation that I would guarantee if I was Trump. But if he came out with passion to help people and to say, I'm with you guys. This is horrible, but we're going to ride it out. We're going to get through this. We're going to, here's some ideas how to rebuild the economy, but until then, we can't do anything. So I have this plan, and that plan. And once people could see that he's been working on something, and he's got an idea to move forward, then he's gonna, he's gonna really turn the tables on Joe Biden, because now Trump has a pretty good plan. He's got a solid, he wants to do a UBI. He wants to, just take care of the American people. And unfortunately, a lot of that sounds like socialism right now, but that's about the only way you're going to do it, unfortunately. Um, One way or the other, it's about the only way you're going to do it. He's got, a way to incentivize curbside, whatever it might be. Who the hell knows? There's a million ways you can go about doing it. Not doing anything is obviously not a way to go about making positive change. But if he got behind 3 or 4 ideas about lifting the American worker up right now, I think a lot of people would then say, okay, great, but now Biden doesn't have anything, and Biden can't sit there in the basement anymore. Biden's going to have to respond, and as soon as Biden opens his big dumb mouth, then people are going to know who Biden is, and the polls are going to change dramatically. But the very first step has to be Trump coming up with a plan that is going to help Americans. This is it. Like, I know he doesn't want to do that. Um, he doesn't want to piss anyone off. And let's be honest, he doesn't want to come up with like a UBI. For any Republican, it just looks bad. It's funny that I say that because so many Republicans were fans of Andrew Yang. They were fans of a UBI. A lot more Republicans than Democrats actually are on certain government assistance. But you just say that word, you just say universal basic income, and you a lot of trigger warnings go off. But he's going to have to do something like that. He is, or he's going to lose the presidency because it shows a lack of compassion. Is really what it is, and shows a guy who can't handle the situation right now. And that's what we need more than anything.